Is Nigeria facing a perfect storm of insecurity, hunger, and economic collapse? Gunmen are abducting worshippers from churches. Terror groups are expanding their reach. And the United Nations now warns that more than 35 million people could face hunger later this year. And to top it all, U.S. President Donald Trump claims there is a Christian genocide underway. I'm Aditya Nayandar, and today's Newsmaker is Nigeria's perfect storm. From mass kidnappings in the country's north to insurgent attacks and separatist militancy in the south, Nigeria is battling crises on multiple fronts. Violence has displaced communities, disrupted farming in the country's food belt, and also deepened a humanitarian emergency just as global aid funding is shrinking. At the same time, President Bola Tinubu's economic reforms, including subsidy cuts, are pushing prices to their highest levels in decades. Now, the United States is stepping up security cooperation while President Trump claims Christians are being targeted, a charge that Nigeria strongly rejects. So, is this a turning point for Nigeria's security and economy? Here's more in our story.
Terror, hunger, and gang attacks. These are the daily realities for many Nigerians. In January, armed men kidnapped more than 170 worshippers from 3 churches in the northern state of Kaduna. Often motivated by ransom money, armed groups have carried out a spate of mass abductions in the region for years. Yet it is not the only part of Nigeria where insecurity creates suffering. In the northeast, militant group Boko Haram and Daesh's West African offshoot are waging terror. The insurgency has displaced more than 2 million people and killed tens of thousands in over 15 years. Meanwhile, in central Nigeria, clashes between mainly Muslim Fulani herders and mostly Christian farmers have been as deadly as that terrorist insurgency. One of the primary drivers of the conflict is competition over resources and land, as well as tensions rooted in religion and ethnicity. Then, in November last year, US President Trump weighed in on the crisis in Nigeria.
They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen.
His administration designated Nigeria a country of particular concern for religious freedom. Abuja has rejected any systematic religious persecution and said all communities suffer from violence. And on Christmas Day, the US, in a joint operation with Nigeria, hit alleged Daesh-linked targets in the northwest. Since then, the two countries have expanded their security ties with more military supplies and intelligence sharing.
We come to this table confident in the progress achieved since November 2025, committed to doing more, and resolved to work with our US partners to deliver credible security, credible justice, and lasting protection for all communities.
Despite some Nigerians being wary of direct US action in the country, others have welcomed the help as the understaffed and under-equipped army is struggling to quell the violence.
If American mission in Nigeria is to take away the terrorists, it's a very good thing. Because nobody in Nigeria, even the president says any terrorists anywhere they are, they should be taken away. If America is helping Nigeria to do that, it's a welcome development.
Many Nigerians desperately need help. The security crisis is worsening economic hardships. Inflation remains high and food prices have skyrocketed. And the government's cuts to fuel subsidies and removal of foreign currency control have taken a heavy toll on the public. And the UN warns that worse is to come. Due to the decline of global aid funding, nearly 35 million Nigerians are at risk of hunger this year.
If families cannot eat and fear continues to grow, desperation will take hold. Armed groups can use that desperation to tighten their grip, putting the wider region even at greater risk.
Every vulnerability feeds another. And with accusations of bad governance and endemic corruption, any improvement seems like a distant hope, at least without dramatic change.
Joining me now to debate are from Cambridge in the UK, the chairperson of APC UK, Tunde Doherty, and from Abuja, political commentator and former Director General of the National Orientation Agency of Nigeria, Mike Omeri, and from Lagos, also in Nigeria, co-convener at the Middle Belt Concern and former African Democratic Congress candidate, E.A. Jonathan Ichebe. It's good to have you all on the show. Mike, let me begin with you, and maybe you can sort of break down the security situation for us. From your perspective, how serious has Nigeria's security crisis become over the last year?
Well, we have noticed increasing attacks in various areas in the country, the Middle Belt particularly, and some in sparsely populated areas of the country, down northwest, east, where soldiers and families are either killed or abducted. So it's a worrisome kind of trend with lots of efforts at curbing it, coming from government and other interventions at the community level.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it is quite diverse. Quite a number of places are coming under heavy attacks. Casualties are being recorded mostly on Sundays or at home, people's families, people sleeping in their communities and villages, they are attacked. So it is more of an aggression than a war situation. It's not a conflict between two people. It's not a conflict, it's an aggression because people are sleeping or are in places of worship and the attackers just come and kill them. Soldiers on their way to provide assistance and help are also attacked and killed. So this is the situation right now.
Okay. We'll get into the nature of the aggression in just a little bit, but EA, I want to turn to you. If you could maybe sort of comment on the human cost of the violence that official statements, quite frankly, often understate. I mean, I'm especially interested in the displaced families as well as the farming communities in the Middle Belt that Mike was just mentioning.
I think the cost is enormous. Entire families wiped out. We have estimates showing anything between 55,000 to 100,000 people killed. That is also a problem because it shows that the numbers are not even being tracked properly. The numbers of displaced people, we have estimates for places like Benue, ranging anything from between 500,000. We've even had previous governments say they have over 1 million in Benue State alone. And this has continued to be a challenge, but we do know that the cost is humongous. The other thing that these attacks and this terrorism has continued to do is continually undermine and exacerbate Nigeria's food security situation. So there is hunger, farmers cannot farm, we can see there's devastation, and some communities are entirely deserted. Entirely deserted, attacked, and in some of the communities in the Middle Belt, we're seeing where they attack themselves or people affiliated with them, headsmen and herders, coming in and taking over these communities where the crop farmers have been displaced. And that raises questions as to who is behind this and who is benefiting from this. But the human cost is unbelievable.
Okay.
For example, I'm working with a woman whose 4 children and mother were burnt in the Yawata attack, and it boggles the mind. But beyond that, also there's a lot of abuse, war crimes, crimes against humanity. There's a lot of rape, totally underreported. A lot of kidnapping, as we've heard in the news. Even yesterday, again, a church was burned to Niger State, and people were kidnapped. And there are still some in captivity from the Kaduna kidnap that just happened a few weeks ago. So the cost is humongous. For many of us as well, by the way, we cannot even travel to our villages. So road travel is a problem. So you now have to go by air if you can afford it. Some people have not been to their villages in years because of this insecurity. So the cost and the effect on the Nigerian people, I think it's at a scale that we cannot even imagine.
Okay,
We've
fair
never
enough.
had this bad.
Iya, thank you for that. Tunde, let me bring you in the conversation. You heard Iya. She said that the numbers aren't being even tracked. When you look at the scale of the devastation, it is enormous with a capital E. When you look at the statements that are coming out from the government, it's a little different. I mean, the government says security operations are improving and the Daesh camps have been destroyed. What concrete evidence is there that the situation is actually stabilizing?
Thank you very much for having me. I can tell you that government is not leaning on this. There are quite a lot of interventions from the government of Ashwaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and we must recognize that this security situation is not today's. It didn't start today or start when Ashwaji became the president. It's been there for quite a long time, and the challenges that the government met has been quite very enormous. Intelligence sharing, intelligence gathering, the community themselves, and what have you. But you will see of recent that the government itself has decided to collaborate with the United States of America to deal decisively with insurgents, be it banditry, be it Boko Haram, be it ISIS, be it kidnapping, and all of that. But as we all know, there are quite a lot of equipment that is required in making sure that the insurgents are being met head on. The government is investing in technology and equipment. The government has acquired quite a lot of drone surveillance system and modern combat equipment. There's also a community-based security initiative which is engaging the traditional rulers, local vigilante, and community leaders, and emphasizing on early warning system and intelligent gathering. Combating this needs the cooperation of both the community, the people, and government. And also the counter-terrorism and anti-banditry operations have been intensified. Operations in the Northeast, the Northwest, and the North Central, and targeted strike on terrorists has been very, very, very successful. There's equally police reform coming up, and the government is trying to make sure that the state police are put in place, and also we have the forest ranger now that has been given the mandate to go into the forest and fish out at the bandits. And also the government has restructured the security architecture. The government has they have of recent reshuffled the defense the Ministry of Defense, the hierarchies of the military. The service chief was recently reshuffled to pave way for new ones to call the insurgency. I can tell you, yes, it's very painful, whatever is happening, but I can tell you the government is not sleeping in making sure this insurgency is brought to book. Of recent, there is a collaboration between the Nigerian military and the U.S. military. In fact, they have a team now that is really working day and night to fight all of these insurgents. A lot of what is happening within the field of battle is not being reported because of the casualties that are being that is involved.
Thank you for that. We'll get into the cooperation, the defense cooperation with the United States in just a bit. I hope we have time. But Mike, let me turn back to you. When you and I were just talking just a moment ago, you said this is an aggression. It's not violence. I want you to sort of maybe dig deeper into the nature of this, because I want to ask you whether or not the security threats are still primarily ideological, whether it is linked to organizations like Boko Haram or Daesh, or have they become driven by sort of criminal economics like kidnapping and ransom?
Thank you. Before I answer this, as to the cost and the effect, especially in farming in communities, farming communities, yes, education too is affected. Children are not able to go to school. In fact, the schools are deserted and have become, dormitories, accommodation for displaced persons. Now, whether the fight, the aggression is induced by some ideological persuasions, the banditry, what I would say is that all of these are terrorist acts because they going to affect people, create fear, which is one of the most important objective of terrorists, so that people are not able to live the way they normally would. And the banditry and kidnappings are also used to fund acts of terrorism in some areas. And they also are used to fund Boko Haram. They are used to fund multiple groups that have emerged, the Daesh, Lakurawa, and Sevra. Some of their members resort to this in order to get resources to fund their ideological war. And when there are allegations of national funding, countries who are deceived that funding this is like funding Islam or religion and stuff like that, while the utilization is misapplied locally. So what we see is an extensive nature of cooperation between the bandits, the terrorists, and the kidnappers. Some of their members also engage in this to look for resources in order to support their operations. So what is required is a comprehensive approach. Yes, nobody is accusing the government of as the Tinubu as being ineffective or inactive, but the long story has been there. But I'm hearing almost the same tales. There has been a fusion center that shared intelligence with Americans, the French, name all the countries that needed to be. It has been in existence since the time of President Jonathan. And the promise was that what was started was not well done. So the new administration, all the two succeeding administrations after Jonathan, were coming with the magic one, put an end to it. But what we have seen is an escalation of the issue. And yes, Nigerians are collectively worried. It doesn't matter whether it is one person or 10 people or a whole community. All of us are worried. We wish that find quick solution to the problem.
Okay.
That means there is no need to blame anyone.
Mike, thanks for that. EA, I see that you're agreeing with Mike was saying, especially when he was making the correlation between sort of cause and effect. Let me hear your response.
Well, I agree with him to an extent. I think the government has done not nearly enough. I think they have been absolutely, in many ways, in their responses, incompetent, uncaring, because we've been screaming about this killing for years, especially in the Middle Belt, especially in Benue. When Yawata happened, the president came to Benue and made the most ridiculous statement, did not even visit the Yawata community. He said it was too flooded. And we made the point at the time that even when it's a campaign, he will find his way there. But now that human beings have been killed, and and actually even there, he insinuates that there was a some political rivalry between the Benue State governor and some parties and all of that, instead of giving it the attention it deserved. The only thing, to my shame and to all Nigerians' shame, anyone who's, and I think to the ruling party's shame, they began to act more seriously after Donald Trump threatened and designated the country a country of particular concern based on religious persecution. Prior to that, it was like people were just dying, and it wasn't, especially for those in the Middle Belt. The other thing that people in the Middle Belt are extremely concerned, because I work with several groups, and the Belt concern has the various conversations happening within the Middle Belt. There are concerns around the Office of the National Security Advisor, which the president has consistently ignored. A lot of those concerns are around the fact that, one, there are accusations from Middle Belt communities that the National Security Advisor's office is not exactly taking the action it needs, that the National Security Advisor, the occupant of that office himself, is not suitably qualified to handle these challenges. And this is if you look at his credentials, this is a man who's a retired police officer without the requisite experience that's needed to handle this sort of dire situation, existentialist threat that we have. I mean, he's coordinating the entire security strategy of the country and dealing with this severe threat. I do not see how, and so many of us have raised that point, and several other entities have raised the point that the National Security Office should be beefed up. There should be people who have possibly more experience in handling this. And of course, in our time, in our society, it is now not, it's considered politically incorrect to come down too hard on the ruling party and so on and so forth. The other thing we've seen a lot of too is that the ruling party, again, up until this time, up until Donald Trump and his government put a bit of was pressure, they were more concerned about 2027. And they've continued in that vein to be politicking all over the place, whereas people are dying every single day. Yes, we agree that there has been a lot more activity. There are more reports around terrorists being attacked, being kidnapped, being stopped, terror strikes on terror cells and so on. But we're still not sure who is funding this thing. Yes, there's a shift. Some of it is ideological, was initially, but all terror, whether ideologically based or not, is usually about the economics, about gaining power, political and economic power. Sometimes ideology is just they're just hiding behind it. For the Middle Belt particularly, we're extremely concerned. There are headsmen who are going around killing people, raping, attacking. The Yelwata one was by terrorist headsmen. This is not being dealt with sufficiently. The cattle breeding interests who are behind these terrorist or these headsmen activities, nothing is being said about them. And it is concerning to us in the Middle Belt that the National Security Advisor and a lot of the security architecture is peopled by people who are of the same tribe, the Fulanis, as these headsmen. That is something they keep the APC, the government keeps trying to downplay. And they keep on saying, oh, it's about climate change, it is a conflict, and this is a terrorist attack. So they also keep trying to say, oh, it's not a Christian issue, and so on and so forth. It's not a Christian genocide. And they spend so much time, we've heard about the terribly misappropriated, was it $8 million or however it was, paid to a lobby group to go and try and downplay the issue of Christian genocide in the Middle Belt.
Okay.
And the Middle Belt continues to insist, Christian communities continuing to insist that this is the problem.
All right. Iya, thank you very much for that. There's a lot to unpack. Tunde, I want to get you back in the conversation. Iya was saying that President Trump's comments was in sorts a turning point. I mean, how do you feel the Nigerian government is approaching this? I mean, are they sort of rejecting the framing that this is a Christian genocide completely? And if so, why?
Thank you very much. First, I would disagree with Eni because he's talking about the incompetency of the National Security Advisor. I can tell you the National Security is very well qualified. He's somebody that was in himself a corruption Caesar while he was in the police force. So when you say it's incompetent, I disagree with you. When it comes
we're not dealing with corruption,
security,
we're dealing with security, please, sir.
Yes. I can tell you the moves that this man has made in the last 2.5 years. And if you go back history, you know that this has been a pandemic in itself, and this government has taken it head on. You find out that during Jonathan period, there are quite a lot of contracts that were given to purchase some equipment to fight insurgents and all of that. And you know then that American denied supplying us those equipment to the level that they have to even take cash to South Africa to go and acquire some of this equipment. But now, because most of this equipment are being manufactured in the US, and the genocide, the genocide reporting and all of that asked to America, as we all know, had to come up and say, this is what we want to do. It's not that Nigerian army is not capable. Yes, You don't have to deal with such a situation. You need specialized technological-driven equipment, and it's been so tough because if you look at the budget on defense, it wasn't enough to do that. But now, after the intervention of the United States, which is a collaboration with the Nigerian government,
if I could kindly ask you to maybe wrap up.
Yeah, it has made a success of it, and the collaboration is very necessary because now we can see that our military are going to battle ready, and they are using it the way it is. I know of recent there was a counter offensive in Borno State where those terrorists were dealt with without leaving any of them alive. So there are quite a lot of interventions going on. Not everything will the government will come out to say, but I tell you, the government is working seriously day and night, 24/7.
All right, fair enough.
Combat all these insurgents.
I wish we had some more time for this conversation, but unfortunately, we have to end it there. Tunde Doherty, Michael Mary, and E.A. Jonathan Ichebe, thank you very much for joining us here on the Newsmakers, and thank you for watching. Of course, you can follow us on social media, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Alijan Ayamnash, and we'll see you next time.